All right, here they come. Here they come. Yes, love this. What's up,
Sorry?
everybody?
I only
Hey,
need to.
y'all. Woo! It's Saturday night in Austin
Whoop,
and
whoop.
California. Woo, welcome. This is a perfect song for tonight.
No, well, we're really back
All
there.
right. Woo, welcome all. Welcome all. All right, welcome everybody. We've got a few more people coming in. This is going to be awesome. I have got my eyes and heart set on this cheese plate. This is awesome. With a little Jimi Hendrix kind of lighting us up, a little Purple Haze. In case anybody checked out the menu on their little cheat sheet, we got a song for the first one. All right, this is awesome. This is awesome, y'all. I am so pumped to be here tonight. We're just waiting on a few more folks to just enter in.
There's also a pretty decent beer named Purple Haze by Abita down in Louisiana.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Awesome. Hey, for those of you just getting on tonight, if you want to open your chat window, we do a lot through chat during the experience. Let us know what you're drinking tonight. I've got some Texas Keeper cider Weizen myself. And also let us know what you're celebrating tonight. It's a Saturday night. There's something to celebrate. Who knows? Maybe it's just eating a lot of cheese with us. That could be a perfect celebration. So welcome in, everybody.
What's up?
We just got one or two more people we're waiting on.
I thought they started the upgrading first.
All right. So Susan has sparkling water this week, and she survived another week. It's good to have you back, Susan. And I've got my sparkling water too. I got some Rambler happening up here. What is everybody else drinking? Dawn, I see you on here for the 11th time, it looks like. Welcome back, Dawn. 11 classes in 3 months is pretty amazing. We got East Cider, nice, Jessica. And then, oh, the Jigsaw Pinot Noir. A 33rd birthday. Congratulations, Carly. That's awesome. Welcome to the party tonight. So as you probably all know and have noticed, most everybody is on mute at this point because the way Zoom works is that it steals away the microphone if there's a dog barking in the background or my 6-year-old runs in here and starts yammering in my ear trying to steal my cheese from me, as most of you have seen before. So if you have a question, you want to say something, use the chat feature. Oh, we've got Dark Horse Cab, a 28th birthday. Carolyn, welcome to the party. That is awesome. Welcome to our Zoom experience. This is one of my favoriteest things to do. Those of you that don't have your video camera on, if you want to, it's always fun. I love seeing smiley faces, and cheese makes people smile. So feel free to turn those on. We have another birthday, a 48th birthday coming up. Congratulations, Julie. That's awesome. Thanks for pre-celebrating with us. So this is our behind the scenes tasting, and I am absolutely thrilled to be a part of this tasting. I've got to figure out how my systems work. I have 4 screens going all at once right now in my background so that I can manage video content. I can manage all sorts of things. So if you see me looking over here, that's one thing. If you see me looking over here, that's another. I want to be able to keep up with all of your chats and all of your, oh, a wedding suit, just like that. Congratulations, Lauren. That's awesome. What we'll be doing tonight, this is behind the scenes. This is Cypress Grove. This is iconic. This is one of the greatest cheesemakers in the country. Mary Keene, you'll see some pictures. She's an inspiration to all of us cheesemongers in the industry. Getting a chance, she's such a down-to-earth, humble woman, but you don't necessarily walk straight up to somebody with that kind of icon status and just like you just want to give her a hug, but you just don't do that. And I finally got into that world a couple of years ago where I get to give Mary Keene hugs, and it feels awesome. And she is wonderful, and her heart is so big. And the cheese that we're going to eat tonight is a representation of that love and all that hard work and the years and years of passion that's gone into it. But I digress. I will be introducing our guest speakers tonight, who are the experts and who will be guiding us, one of which is my mentor. So I'm super pumped to be a part of this. There are a couple quick things to note about Zoom. Throughout the tasting, I'll spotlight people's videos, and we'll do some shared video screen and behind the scenes stuff. But in the top right, there is an option to choose speaker view or general view, gallery view. And gallery view kind of creates where you can see 15 people or 16 people at once. Speaker view is just kind of the one person whose microphone is on. But I'll be, again, spotlighting and trying to control that as best I can. Susan, I do not yet have the pairings list typed up. I ended up spending most of the day with my kiddos playing. And so they asked Daddy to play, and I did that, and I felt good about it. But I will get all of them typed in for you throughout the course of this tasting so that we can stay ahead, just like the last few weeks. And so, welcome. I know there's a lot going on outside, and there's a lot of sunshine right now, but I'm feeling very blessed that you guys have decided not to stay outside at 98, whatever degree weather, and come and join us, the comfort of your living room with us. And it looks like Michele is here, and I am thrilled to introduce her. I'll start by introducing Michele. I need to spotlight her video. Michele Haram is one of my mentors. Hello, Michele, welcome.
Thank you. So good to be here. I'm having some technical difficulties, as you might imagine, or as you can tell, I'm sure.
Your head keeps moving and the wine glasses don't. I just don't understand. But we will get you lined up here in just a second. I know you're coming in with your computer. And so a little bit of background with Michele. Michele started, she's been in the cheese industry for, well, as long as I've known her. Michele was sort of my first introduction into the world of cheese. You'll see a picture of us from 2009 together. But Michele is based out of Austin. Oh, I should spotlight this video. This is fascinating because I've always have two videos going at once. There we go. Michele has been my sort of confidant in cheese. Those of you that have been bored before by my stories of my experiences in the cheese world have always heard about my first American Cheese Society conference back in 2009, where I spent countless days and countless hours helping with the judging and competition committee. And I can share with you, like, Michele was the leader of that experience. And Michele was the one that kind of brought me under her wings and gave me that of the ability to connect with these products and share these experiences. And you'll see a picture in a few minutes. Michele, are you on? Let me make sure that you're unmuted there. I know she's having some technical difficulties, so we'll get her on. And the other individual that's on our call tonight is Christy. And Christy is one of our, one of the Cypress Grove ladies who helped put all of this together. Hello, Christy. Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
She is sitting, well, you want to tell us where you're sitting?
I'm sitting right now in Arcata, California, right, and at the creamery. So right behind me, you can see part of our barns where we have a lot of our storage. Most of our trade show booths and a lot of our t-shirts and swag and whatnot are housed down there. But I'm really happy to enjoy the day with all of you.
Fantastic. Well, welcome. Thanks for being here. That piece of cheese looks awesome. And Michele, welcome.
Hello.
We got you. We got you. It's working great now. So welcome.
So if I work just right, I can get my head right with the horns.
So welcome. Yeah. So I just told them that you're my mentor. Do you want to share how you ended up based out of Austin, working for such an awesome company like Cypress? All your magical years of cheese?
So many magical years of cheese, which is why I don't know how to use technology. Yeah, so as I think John was saying, we met when I was a cheesemonger here in Austin, and he gives me way more credit than I'm due. I just saw somebody that was interested in cheese that could stand in a refrigerator for 4 days and move hundreds and thousands of pounds of cheese around. And so I was like, come on down, John. And it was so lovely. It was such a lovely thing. The American Cheese Society conference is, it's an excellent opportunity to meet so many people. The thing I really love about our industry, what I really love about cheese and cheesemakers is that it's a very cooperative group, right? So they had to cooperate in the early days just to stay alive. And that has really just permeated throughout our community ever since. So if I gave you a tiny little leg up, John, it's just a pay forward for the millions of legs up that I got on my way. So I've been a volunteer at ACS and have worked in cheese mongering and working for cheese companies. And just a couple of years ago, I met Mary in probably 2006. And she's one of my idols as well, right? She's idol, smart, remarkable woman. She is the best hug giver you can imagine. And so when the opportunity came to go to work with her, I jumped at it. So been there just a couple of years.
Well, I'm so glad that we're getting to work together. This is just a super fun night. I'm thrilled. I know we've got a ton of cheese in front of us. Here's our plates, y'all. You'll notice the first cheese that we're going to taste tonight is it looks like this nice, mine is sort of a quarter moon of Chev with some speckles in it, and it's paired with the honeycomb. But, you know, Michele, I often like to start the tastings with how you, our guest of honor, our guest speaker, likes to approach tasting.
Well, I'm originally from Chicago, so I'll just say early and often, just like we vote there. You know, I really just love cheese. So I approach cheese tasting generally sort of all at once. But when we're doing something more formal like this, or not formal, but more plated like this, I like to go from mildest to strongest, right? And when I'm doing pairings, I like to do both likes, you know, this is like that, or sometimes play around with opposites. I got 2 glasses of wine provided by Antonelli's so that I can mix and match. I'm very excited about that. I don't really have a philosophy of how to pair cheese. I just, you know, everybody's palate is so different that it's fun to try something like this so you can figure out what you like, right? And while we're at this though, you can tell me, what are you supposed to do with a honeycomb? Do you eat it and it gets all waxy in your mouth and then do you swallow that, or do you?
That's how I typically eat them. It depends on the honeycomb. This is the red bee honeycomb. So I love, it does have a waxy component, so you will end up swallowing it. And then there are some, if you do like micro honeys, here I'll spotlight my video for a second. If you do micro honeycombs, like really small batch honeycombs, the texture of the wax is softer sometimes than the ones that can ship across the country in the kind of bulk that we need. So we carry 2 different types. We carry red bee honeycomb and then 2 hives honeycomb when she actually has some in stock. The 2 hives, the wax itself is a little bit more delicate. This one is super flavorful, incredible texture, but you will end up with the wax. And we'll get to that when we get to that pairing. Somebody had asked if a framboise, Lindemans makes these really great flavored, spontaneously fermented beers. If you've never gotten to have one of them, they are incredible. And the framboise is the raspberry, and they taste just like almost like pure fruit. And they would go with every single one of these cheeses tonight, even the last special one, which we have. And so I'm super pumped. And so, well, since one of the things that we do here, Michele, I typically always do just to get everybody's palates on board, is we do a Quicos tasting. And so what I want everybody to do, we've got little Quicos in the middle of the plate and underneath the bread. These are fair game. You can eat at any time. All of the other stuff on the plate is intended for the pairings tonight. But this one, what I want you to do is pick it up quick, pinch your nose and start chewing on the Quico, and pay attention to what's happening on your tongue. Keep your nose pinched. Don't forget to breathe. And when you feel like you're tasting salty, bitter, maybe some umami, release your nose and exhale out through your nostrils. And what we're doing here is showcasing, I'll give you a second for the oohs and ahs. It's hard to type ooh and ah, I get it, but I see it in some of your smiles. What happens here is we're taking taste, which is on your tongue, aroma, which happens in your olfactory, and creating flavor. And so like what we talk about, most people after they do this Quicos tasting, it's like, it tasted all right on your tongue. It was kind of boring, salty, good. But once you released your nose and exhaled out, it tasted like the best like Frito pie you might have ever had. And that experience is important as we lean into these tastings. We are just gonna eat and have fun like Michele. And I probably might not do that every time, but especially as we get to that, that last cheese, that's a really special experience that we're gonna get to have. We're one of the first places in the country getting to sell it, but I won't, first, I won't jump ahead. I'll make sure you guys are patient. I did just post all the pairings. So Michele, do you want to, do a quick story about, Cypress Grove? Tell us a little bit about Cypress Grove.
I'd love to.
Started.
Okay, so we have some videos and we have some photographs that we're gonna show you guys, but I don't want to get too repetitive, but we are, as John said, we're Cypress Grove. We're in Arcata, California. We've been making cheese there for 37 years, officially 37 years. A little bit, Mary's history, our founder's history goes back farther than that. Let's see. What should I tell you about us first? So we're in Northern California, and this is where the redwoods meet the Pacific Ocean. And it's just a stunningly beautiful place, incredibly rural, way out of the way. But the terroir of this place is really baked into the DNA of everything we do. You could make Humboldt Fog and the other cheeses that we make, you could make them anywhere cheaper and easier, but it wouldn't be the same. And the people that are there are really the part of, the heart and soul of the cheeses that we make. So there are so many people there that have been there 18 years and longer. And so it's really, they're so proud of what they do and work so hard. And that's all because of Mary. So I should tell you a little bit about Mary, I suppose.
Yeah, do you want me to show? I've got some of those pictures of like the redwoods and stuff. Do you want me to share some of those?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Yeah. And the first picture, this was like a blast from the past, y'all. I can't believe Michele found it, but this is, Kendall hasn't even seen it. This is, can you see my screen all right? I hope so.
Yeah.
This is that American Cheese Society conference, the very first one. There's Michele, myself. If you have been shopping with us for 10 years, you might recognize Kelly. Kelly was our very first cheesemonger team member. She was our director of wholesale. Anyway, that was down at the Hilton downtown Austin, 2009. Crazy awesome. So that's how Michele and I know each other. And that picture just had to be included because when I saw that, it melted my heart. And y'all have been such supporters of me for so long. And then what are we looking at here, Michele?
So this is just the coastline, right? It's sort of the drive between the creamery and the dairy. If you stop by the side of the road randomly, there it is. And I just thought I wanted to show like where the trees really do hit the ocean there. And that's Trinidad Beach. And it's kind of foggy, as you can see. You can't, stop on that one. You can't really take a bad picture of Humboldt County. It's almost impossible. So a lot of these pictures are
Michele,
just.
it sounds like we have some internet issues on your end. Can everybody hear me still? Susan, can you hear me? Yes? Awesome. All right. So yeah, Michele, it sounds like there might be some internet issues on your end. But I can go ahead if everybody can hear me. Oh, and all right. So maybe it's just, let's give it a couple seconds.
Can you guys hear me? Some people can hear me. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of chats that seem to think that they can hear me, so I'm gonna go forward, if that's okay. We've lost John. Oh my God, we've lost John. So you guys, this picture is the picture of Mary's cabin in California. She came straight to California from Chicago in the 1968 Democratic Convention in, no lie, in a VW bus. So such, it's like total hippie cred, right? Nobody's more hippier than her. And she came as a back-to-lander. This is where she lived. That cabin down at the bottom of the hill they built that by pulling logs out of the forest, felled trees out of the forest with a horse. You can see her beautiful garden. And then if you go up the hill, you can see Bigfoot, I guess. I assume that's Bigfoot. She came and they were doing, everything off the land. That's her glorious garden, as I said. And they were making soap. They were doing, they were sewing their own clothes. If you go to the next one, John.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, one of my two computers jumped to a cell phone internet rather than trying to actually use real internet. So it was all on me, and I apologize for just talking over you, Michelle.
It's okay, no problem at all. So I was just saying, this is Mary. Here she is with 3 of her girls. And as I mentioned, she sewed her own clothes, which might explain why these kids are naked. I don't know. But it was really very much a very hippie existence. And I wonder if we should pause and taste some Purple Haze so everybody doesn't get bored with me rambling on.
All right, let's do that. I think that's a great idea.
Okay. So the first cheese on your plate is this Purple Haze, the fresh goat cheese. The fresh goat cheese is the base of everything we make. Purple Haze is, so we like to have fun with the names. And I don't know if you guys are aware, but Humboldt County's biggest cash crop is not actually cheese. So Purple Haze is kind of a play on what Humboldt is actually famous for, which is, well, weed, but we make cheese. And so this cheese, Mary was monkeying around in her kitchen. She's driven really to make everything better. Her dad really drove into her that we don't need another mediocre thing. So, whatever you do, do it really well. And so she had some fresh goat cheeses that she was making, and she was monkeying around in her kitchen, and she wanted to use lavender because she really likes lavender, and then a friend gave her some fennel pollen, and so she put those both together, and we got this magical combination of lavender and fennel pollen and the beautiful soft fresh goat cheese underneath. Some people find goat cheese to be a little bit gamey. This one, ours is really mild and beautiful, perfect texture, nice and fluffy and creamy. And then this flavor is, it's just so unusual and so delicious that we knew that we have to, this is sort of like where we set the tone, and everything has to be as good as this from Cypress Grove.
Well,
so I'm gonna eat some cheese.
Yeah, it's time to eat. I'm just diving into mine. The flavor, that fennel is so aromatic. It dances on your palate. It's just a really beautiful flavor profile. I think that when you get these, they're often, little disc shapes. This one is one of my all-time favorite flavored cheeses. You get a really softness from the lavender, but that fennel, it reminds me of my sort of childhood. I just absolutely love that delicateness of it. It reminds me of fennel sausage, and I'm like also wondering why I didn't pair it with fennel sausage. That'll be next time. But paired with the honeycomb, that sweetness helps soften it even more, which I think is pretty amazing. Susan, you're asking if it's in the shop or not. I'm actually not sure if we have some in stock. The cheesemongers know much better than me if what's in and available. And so I actually don't know today. We'll have to find out on the website and see if it's in. And then somebody, I'm not sure who, asked if there was going to be ever a hemp haze at some point. So I don't know if you have an answer to that.
Well, maybe I should punt to Christy on that. She's
I was just going to say, I can kind of speak to that a little bit. It's not as if we haven't tried, I'll tell you that much. But trying right now with the hemp and fresh goat cheese, it's just not delivering the flavor we're hopeful for. But I'm not going to say it is ruled out. So, yeah.
Okay. And Michele, what are some of the other flavors that y'all make?
We make an herb de humble, sort of a take on herb de Provence, but it's from Humboldt, obviously. And then we make Sergeant Pepper, which has got harissa and pepper strands in it. It's really delicious. We have an all natural called Ms. Natural, and psychedelic. That's my favorite. It's got a lot of dill in it. It's delicious. And purple haze. So I'm eating this with that Gruner, what do you call that stuff? Gruner Veltliner. Or
Gruner Veltliner. Yes, so good. The good acidity. If you're drinking something white with bubbles, especially with these young, we've got the Lauren's drinking the BioCult. We have some Brut, some Il Pigro bubbles. This is a really great cheese to have with that type of experience, because those bubbles really lift the richness off your palate and help elevate it into your olfactory, help kind of create that flavor and taste thing. And so and somebody's saying don't drink a lot of wine, but with the Sauvignon Blanc tonight, whoa, awesome, right? It helps elevate the minerality, I bet, because of those herbs and the aromatics. I bet it does such a wonderful job. Somebody had asked a few minutes ago what years those pictures were taken. And I just wanted to show one other, this is another image of Mary having actually shown some goats here. And you can see up in the corner, 1985. So pretty amazing woman that has inspired me on multiple occasions and was one of the main reasons, after talking with her in January of 2019, was one of the main reasons that I sought therapy help for my depression that I was going through, because of her, her stories and her personal experiences and her willingness to be vulnerable in that moment. I remember walking away from that conversation and calling a therapist and starting a new chapter in my personal journey. So what does everybody think of the Purple Haze? I thought it was awesome. I'm going to leave just a little bit behind, just a teensy bit. I have enough willpower at this moment, just in case I want to pair it with something else like the strawberry jelly, or maybe even that savory fig and black tea that we're going to do it. All good if you ate it all, Katie. I often eat it all. I just had to stop, I guess, for a second. I don't, I join the Clean Plate Club often. So we have another video here. Let me see if I can't get it lined up for you. This is actually a video. Michele, do you want to kind of talk through the players of this one here?
Yes.
Share my screen.
So first you're going to see Mary. I think okay.
Nope.
Not a goat.
That's not, we're getting there. Here we go.
Here we go. So this is Mary as she is today, and that's her swinging the lavender around. Some of those old photographs. I just want to, when you get to the cows, pause on the cows. There they are. Pause on the cows. So I want to tell you the story that is about this pin that you guys are all looking at, that you guys, I think, got with your cheese today. At least I got one with my cheese today. Pretty cool. So when Mary moved to California, she started, as I said, back to Lander, but she lived next to a cow dairy, which is why there's cows in this video. She lived next to a cow dairy, and she asked the lady if she could buy a cow, a goat. They had goats for clearing brush, just sort of wildish goats. And she asked her daughters didn't really go for cow's milk. So she asked for some, she needed some nutrition for her daughters. So she asked the neighbor if she could buy a goat. And the lady famously said, honey, if you can catch one, you can have one. And so she did. She went out there and she, very patiently waited with grain in her hand every day, a little closer to the goats. And eventually she got 2 goats from that farm. And those were our first 2 goats. And they are on this pin. That's Hazel and Esmeralda. And their genetics run through our dairy to this day. So those pictures you saw, the early pictures, you can keep playing, John. I'll just talk over these. The pictures that you were seeing earlier, she was a champion goat dairy goat shower. So first, she had a few goats and she went to a competition. She only brought like 4 goats or 5 goats with her, and everybody else that goes to a competition for goats, which I know sounds really strange. There is such a thing as competitions for goats, but everybody else brings, like 100 goats. And she brought 4 and she won the national championship. How about that timing?
That's amazing.
I know. And so she was really, so then she went back and she, if you want to breed goats, you absolutely have to have more than 4 goats. And so pretty soon, as goats do, she had 50 goats. And then she had, way too much milk, more milk than she knew what to do with. So she had a little fridge on the porch, and people would bring mason jars and leave money on the fridge, and she'd fill their jars with goat cheese and put them in the fridge for them, and they come and get them whenever. And one of her early customers was a friend who had a restaurant called Larapin, and he told her that if she would make a real business, that he would buy her cheese. And so he was her very first customer for cheese, and that restaurant is still there, and that goat cheese is still on the menu. So I think that's pretty cool.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And it was it's 1983. So I don't know if it makes sense. I don't know if people can really recognize how extraordinary it was to do goat dairying at that time. There were no goat cheeses in America. Americans were eating, Kraft singles, and the fancy cheese was Velveeta, right? On a good night, on a weekend night, you got the Velveeta. So nobody was eating goat cheese. Nobody knew what it was. And if you wanted to have goats and make goat cheese, there was no equipment for that. All the equipment was made for cows. There was no feed. There was no research. There was no road to market. There were no distributors that could get your product from here to there. And so it was an arduous task. It was a lot. And so Mary was one of those pioneers on the West Coast, Judy Shadd in the middle of the country, and Allison Hooper up in Vermont. And these ladies are still really close friends, because they really built the whole structure of goat cheese in America. And it's just so cool to be part of that legacy.
Yeah, we call them the ladies of the 80s in our business. And Judy Shadd and Allison Hooper are also icons of the industry. They're meant, they're the rock stars. They're the superstars that you kind of walk up to and hope that you can get an autograph, right? And so. Yeah. That's awesome. Those are cool pictures. I had never seen a picture of the actual, that homestead. So it just blew my mind, right?
Amazing, right?
Yeah, it looks like it's just on a bulletin board in the office at the creamery. It's and it's just hanging there, and that's where it started.
Very humble beginnings. So there's a thing called the Fancy Food Show, which is a place for people like John to go and source all kinds of new and interesting things. But in the 80s, it was not that interesting. There was maybe imported cheese and and Colby. Those were the kinds of cheeses that were there, but it was, chocolate and all the fancy foods from Nouvelle Cuisine and like that in the 80s. And Mary actually went with a friend to her first fancy food show with her cheese in her purse, wrapped up in her purse, and took it to a distributor to say, what do you think? And they said, yeah, okay, we'll buy that. So that was, you know, the beginning of Mary being able to sell her cheese outside of Arcata, California.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
is there another, Vander had asked if there's another close city to like something else as a reference point to the,
Oh,
it's the middle of nowhere.
I think on the next video, it shows you a map.
Okay, yeah, let's start. Well, you know, let's eat first. Do you
Okay.
mind? And we had a great pun, so you guys can put it onto a t-shirt at some point. Started from very Humboldt beginnings. I love it. So you guys, you can take that. Well, I don't know if Claire's going to charge royalties for that or not, but it was well played. So why don't we taste America's original? You want to talk about it?
Yes, I sure do. So the fresh goat cheese is really the base of everything that we do, right? And so you start with wonderful fresh milk and you get wonderful cheese. If you don't have great goats, you don't get great milk. And if you don't have great milk, you can't make great cheese. So this is Humboldt Fog. Can you see? This is Humboldt Fog. Oops, this side. This is Humboldt Fog. This is a soft ripened goat cheese. So it has that soft white bloomy rind like a brie. And then what you do to make this cheese is you press fresh goat cheese, the moisture out of it overnight. Takes a long time, you know, it's a nice long set. And then you press that in. We have the people in the creamery that push a layer of goat cheese into a mold, and then we spray ash on it. It's vegetable ash, and then we put another layer of cheese on, and then we take it out of the mold and spray the whole thing with ash. And then as it ages or as it ripens, you get that lovely soft white bloomy rind on the outside. And so that ripens from the outside in, and you can see in my piece a really lovely cream line. So you can see all around in here that this is the enzymatic action from the rind has started doing its work here on the cream line. And I know that there's pictures later that will show you like how Humboldt Fog progresses as it ages, but let's just taste it so that we don't have to wonder.
And this we'll have it cut into a couple different wheels of this so we might all be tasting something slightly different. But I would recommend eat that like chalky center and then try the cream line by itself and then try the rind and see what you think. I mean, this wheel of cheese, this is, there's very few cheeses in the cheese world that customers recognize and ask for by name. And Humboldt Fog is one of the very few. Parmigiano Reggiano is one. And there's, you know, the list is kind of short. Somebody walks in and they just say, oh, and add that into I love Humboldt Fog, or I love Parmigiano Reggiano, just add it into my basket. And Susan, thank you for answering that question for us. You were awesome as always. But yeah, so Humboldt Fog, it's recognizable, it's distinct. It's like a dream come true. It's amazing. And again, when we were first opening and getting started, we knew that this cheese was going to play an important role in our business. And for the history of it in our shop, we always wanted it to be cheaper than anywhere else in the city that you could get it. And that was just because so many customers would come in and they're like, I don't know much about a cheese shop. Oh, there's Humboldt Fog. Give me some of that. And they would just, you know, point at it and they knew it. It's like the quintessential, like first love of most future cheesemongers. So this is a super great wheel. I'd love to know what everybody thinks about each layer. Like, what was your favorite bite? Was it with the rind and the cream line together, all three things together? And then we paired it with Berry Last Straw, which is from Jam Nation, also based out of California. How did this cheese come to be, Michele? Was there like a aha moment or anything?
Oh, why, yes, John, there was. Thanks. Yeah, there's a great story behind this. So Mary had been making cheese, and she went actually with Judy Shad from Capriole over to France to study cheese making. So again, you guys, recognize that these ladies didn't actually know how to make cheese. They just made it up, right? They knew what they wanted. They knew it was going to be delicious, and they really started from scratch. So they decided at some point to go over to France to see what was happening in goat cheese in France, because France has a lot of great goat cheese, right? They've been making it there for thousands of years. And on the plane back home, Mary had, she nodded off, and she had a dream of a cheese that was cheese and ash and cheese and ash and a blooming white rind, and like the fog rolling in over the bay with the ash and the blooming white rind. It just all came together for her, and she just in this dream knew she needed to make this cheese. She only had 3 molds at the time, so she had to make them one at a time, and that's why we pull the molds off every time when we first make the cheese, so that we can make more cheeses. We have more than 3 molds now, but she started with literally 3 molds.
That's awesome. That's to say, the inspiration from an airplane ride, and that happens in France. And you've referenced Judy Shad a couple times. I'll just have if you all know Sophia from the shop, if you've tasted that before, Judy uses a little bit more salt than Mary does. Cheesemaker. I asked Judy once, if that was like, just she had to do it that way or whatever, and she said, "John, I just love salt," and that was the end of the conversation. So it also is inspired by this sort of soft ripened with ash look. The video that I have Michele queued up here, it does throw back to 2 images of purple haze. So I think these first 2, this is just like a happy, wonderful shot of it. But this particular image here.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. That is a cheese press. So you guys have heard of cheesecloth, right? This thing is made of cheesecloth, and when you put the curd in it, it used to be, so it's a lactic set. Our cheeses are lactic set. We don't use rennet. So the difference between lactic and rennet set cheeses is that lactic cheeses, you ferment them very slowly, and then you drain them very slowly, and then you serve them very fresh. Enzymatic cheeses, rennet set cheeses are meant to last for months and years, while lactic set are really meant to last for days, hours, days. Well, they only last for hours at my house. Hours, days, weeks, maybe months. So this press, so we make the cheese, we put the milk in the vat and add the cultures, which is, everybody's got their secret recipe. It's like a sourdough starter, right? You add the cultures, you mix it up, and then we put it in this press and let it drain overnight. It used to be in these 50-pound bags of cheesecloth, and you had to flip the cheesecloth bags, and it was just horribly hard work. So we're so very proud of this press. It starts, at the beginning of the day, all sort of lengthened out with all the cheese in it, and then as it presses, it just mechanically presses just a little bit at a time over the course of about 12 hours to give you that perfect consistency of our fresh cheese.
I've only seen this type of press one other time in my life. So this is, it's on hydraulic. So this wall here will start way back, further back, and just slowly be moving forward throughout the course of the night. And in each one of these, you can kind of see where each bag exists. There's one after another hanging down. And how long do you think these are? 20 feet?
Yeah.
Anyway, It's amazing. I've only seen one other one in all my cheese journeys, and I thought this was super cool to include because it's a very incredible concept over the hanging bags.
Saved a lot of people from injury and sore backs.
Yeah, exactly. So then this goes into, I think, into the pictures of about Arcata and where you're at. So this should.
Okay. So here's Arcata. It's really far from everywhere. That is, if you've ever ridden there in a van, a 12-person van with, 15 people in it, you feel every bit of those 5 hours north of San Francisco.
Yeah.
It is, it's up there. It's super rural. There's 2 roads that go in. You can bet your bonnets every winter that those roads are going to close. We are affected. We don't get fires, but the fires that are there in the area shut down the electrical grid. So this year, this last season, we had 2 times where our power was out for 3 days. And I wish I had a photograph to show you guys of the people that were in the coolers with headlamps and pencils and paper, just trying to get cheese out the door because that's how much they care. It's just sort of an amazing, it's a very special place and very special people. So that, again, that's Trinidad Beach, and beautiful. And that is a picture that Bob McCall took of actual Humboldt fog. That's the fog rolling in over Humboldt. And this is, again, that's the Redwood Forest. That is in the community village. Humboldt fog again, I can only guess that.
It was my Humboldt fog in my brain that got me on that one. 2 pictures is better than 1 sometimes.
This is a picture of where Christy is sitting, sort of, and there's a glamour shot of the back end of the plant. Those are our milk tanks, and it's like it's real, but it's a real business now. That's our big expansion. We finished that in 2015. So took it really from sort of a very small local plant to be able to get Humboldt fog across the country, which is awesome. 2.5 hours to Fort Bragg, says.
Awesome. All right. So I think, Humboldt fog, it's the reason why we showed all those videos and the pictures and such is that terroir plays such an incredibly important role in the tasting. And I think you've already kind of made it clear. We're looking at big trees, which require deep soil, which creates this really rich, vibrant food source for the animals. So you get this really incredible milk from the area and from the region that creates great flavor. And so I think it's incredibly important that we showed those images because now we're kind of going off coast California, right? A little bit away for these next 2 cheeses, right?
Oh, yes. Okay, I was wondering if you were going to go show because we had some pictures of Humboldt fog being made.
Oh, yeah. That'll be probably in the next, oh, here we go. I was a video behind when my cell phone took over. Here we go. There we are. I got a video behind y'all. Now we're caught up.
So this is, we're just going to show you some pictures of the dairy as it stands now and show you the cheese. This is super young. There's Mary talking about how she had no business experience, and yet she came up with this cheese in a dream. And when you cut into it, it gives you that sort of feathered effect. You saw it in your own fog line, right? That makes it really look like the coastline of Humboldt fog, of Humboldt. I think that's it for this one, John.
Yeah.
I think we're in there. Oh, nope, I'm wrong.
So there they are. The ash flipping, some of the folks, how they handle it. And it also, let's see, towards the end here, we've got some images of the fog. This is what it looks like just kind of after make, not too many days after, with the brushing of the...
That's day 1. This is probably day 3. Here's how we sprinkle the ash. They're all hand formed, and we sprinkle the ash on it. Then it goes from there after it is in the ripening cooler for about 2 weeks, not quite 2 weeks, depends on the cheese. You know, the thing about artisanal cheese making is that you make the cheese based on the milk and how it is seasonally that day, rather than trying to, standardize your milk and make the cheese the same all the time. So there are seasonal variations, and from cheese to cheese, there's variations. You can see them here. You can see somebody's left paw print on that first cheese.
Yeah,
Um,
if you notice, what's cool, if you notice the white fluffiness, this is the main mold that grows onto this cheese. It looks like we always talk about bloomy rinds looking like a cotton ball. And here's the evidence, it puffed up like a cotton ball. Somebody grabbed this cheese and you can see that their imprint was left on, perfect little pinky or whatever. And that's just the way that mold interacts. And it's important that you flip.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's some pictures maybe of the cheese flipped so that there you go. You can see that the rack leaves an imprint as well as the hands. It's poplar ash. I saw somebody ask that. And this is another cheese we make, Bermuda Triangle, but I just thought that the rind development was pretty cool. There's a guy named Ruben who works in the coolers, in the ripening cooler, and he's in charge of flipping the cheeses, and he's been with us forever. So really helped develop the cheese how it is today. And he knows all the nuances of where cheese is in the cooler and where there's a little more humidity or where there's a little bit of a breeze, whatever that cheese needs, he's taking care of those cheeses for those 2 weeks. This is Humboldt Fog quite young. This is how it ships out from the creamery at like 2 weeks. This is lovely ripe Humboldt Fog, and this is you can see the cream line starting to develop, and also you see the rind on the outside starting to take on the texture of the actual cheese, of the cheese underneath it, right? So that's kind of what I think is one of the beautiful things about this cheese. And then the last picture we have is super ripe, mature Humboldt Fog. This is how I like it when it's running out the door in front of me. As the cheese ages, it gets a little bit more stronger flavors, but it's never that weird goaty barnyard taste. It's always just this really lovely, fresh tasting, lemony, and delightful cheese. No matter what it looks like, it always tastes good. But the age of that cheese is from about 2 weeks when it leaves us to about 4 months. After about 4 months, when you think about like cheddars that are aged for years, this is not that. This has only got a lifespan of a few months before it before it needs to get eaten.
Yeah, and then, Humboldt Fog, it's such a outstanding cheese. Usually we get it at the midway point when we get it to Austin, and, that's how our team loves it. And so we try to sell it that way. Tonight, it was just a little bit, maybe a couple days older than midway, at least on the piece that I was eating. The cream line was a little bit more advanced and a little fudgier than that last picture that we were looking at. And so,
yeah. I like those. I really like the different textures. I like it best when it's got the 3 different textures, where you do have that fluffy center, and then you get a really lovely, as you said, fudgy cream line, and then a little bite on the rind. People always ask if you should eat the rind, and I think, John, you say it best.
Yeah, no rind left behind. A rind is a terrible thing to waste. Those are our inside puns. And then, it's the idea and the way that I think about it, for those of you that are on for the first time, if you like it, you should always try it. If you like it, keep eating it. If you don't like it, stop. But you should at least try it once. Some of the real aged rinds, maybe the wax on the next cheese, you might not want to taste, but it is harmless. And so you can experience it yourself. So, Michele, do you want to dive into lamb chopper? This is such a fun cheese.
I love this cheese. Okay, so in California, we make the fresh cheeses and the soft ripen, and these next 2 are 2 cheeses that we actually import from Holland. The first one is lamb chopper, and it's the only cheese we make that's not goat cheese. It's a sheep's milk cheese, and it's delicious, delightful. And I'll just tell you the story. Mary was exhibiting finally at the fancy food show, and a fellow came by and said, "I like your cheese. You should taste my mother's cheese." There was a guy from the Netherlands, and Mary was like, "Mm-hmm." And so he kept coming by year after year, and finally she's like, "You know what? Okay, I'll taste your mother's cheese." And so She actually flew to the Netherlands and was so impressed with their dairy and how they treated their goats and how happy and healthy they were. She knew she wanted to make a cheese with that milk. What did I say? I said goat. My husband tells me that I said goat when I meant sheep. So sorry. Anyway, she saw the sheep and the goats, and she was very impressed with the dairy, and so they worked together to come up with these cheeses. Lamb chopper, which is sheep, and midnight moon, which is the goat. So if you're tasting the lamb chopper, you might be familiar with sheep's milk cheeses because I think that Manchego is the most popular sheep's milk cheese. Yeah, it's got a white rind on it rather than the black rind on it. And it's just sheep's milk has more fat in it than cow's milk does. And it's just got such a lovely mouthfeel. And when I was a young cheese nerd, didn't know much, I thought that sheep's milk cheeses were going to taste really gamey. But in fact, they're just they're even more mild than cow's milk cheeses. They're just so good. This is so good. I hope everybody likes this as much as I do.
They're so luscious, and sheep's milk Goudas are not very common. You can get them and you can find them, but consistently, this is an award. This is such a great, versatile cheese, and it usually makes everybody at the table really happy. So I'm super glad we got to spotlight them.
Yeah.
They were made in Holland and brought in by Mary to sell. What a great strategy. Was there strategy behind it, or did she just love it and just want to be able to have it herself?
Well, she really loved it, and she wanted to be able to have it. And we didn't have the room, and we didn't have enough goat's milk or sheep's milk. We didn't have any sheep's milk, obviously, but we didn't have enough goat's milk to be able to make these cheeses in our facility. And they aren't really particularly compatible with soft ripened cheese. The mold from the soft ripened cheese would get all over the Gouda, and that wouldn't really work out well for the Gouda, I think. So that's why the partnership remains.
And what is the mascot of the lamb chopper?
That's the sheep on a chopper, on a motorcycle chopper.
Awesome.
So fun, right? We always have fun with our cheeses. Whenever we come up with a new cheese, there's a naming contest at the creamery so that everybody can, put their pun in.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Is Humboldt County popular for motorcyclists coming up from along the coast and stuff, or just chopper is just something inside?
It just looked like fun. Christy, jump in if I've got that. If there's more to the story.
No, you've got it. I mean, the only thing that I would add is back in, when Mary was first developing the cheese, obviously there wasn't a lot of producers here in the United States producing really well done Goudas. And so a big piece for Mary, and Michelle touched on this earlier, is this idea of mediocrity. And so Mary really felt that going to the source that could really develop a special Gouda for her brand at the time was more important to her than trying to just recreate the wheel here. So Mary often likes to say that she's somewhat scrappy, and this is one of those efforts I think that she did, but it turned out to be amazing when she did it. But to your point, John, the mascot, it's the lamb on the chopper. Yes, we do get during the summer months, a lot of people come up and ride through the redwoods because it's the 101. But her tagline for the lamb chopper is "Born to be mild." So we have a little fun with that one.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, it tastes great. I mean, it is mild, but it also isn't. So it's super delicious tonight. This wheel is tasting great.
Yeah.
I've got a video here. This is Michelle, some of the inside the creamery. So it's not exactly, we're not jumping to Holland for this video, but at least it shares some of the cheese making.
Oh yeah. Okay, so that is the curd as it comes out of those big bags on the press. And yeah, so there you got two people on a table with the press.
Let's see if I can nail it. There we go. So it's coming out of the cloth.
Yeah, it comes out of the cloth, and then we use that to then we salt it in a big vat, and then you stir that around. So and then you form it in the wheels. I'm sorry we don't have anybody like. It's kind of an amazing thing to watch them punching that cheese down into the molds because they're so good at it, right? And they've been doing it. That team has been working together for a long time. That's the fennel pollen.
And I need to say one of the things that's so important, right, with COVID-19, the team has been extra special working with us, Michele and Christy at Cypress. You know, I asked you guys, this is a big ask for any cheesemaker to kind of step in and do this type of work with us. And I just knew that y'all would want to see Cypress Grove, right? Like it's iconic and we talk about them all the time. And so they were one of my first phone calls, but with COVID, you know, it impacts all cheesemakers in a big way right now. And in order for Cypress Grove to continue creating these wonderful things, they needed to break into pods. And so one of the agreements that we made is that we wouldn't interrupt. And of course, I don't ask cheesemakers to do things that don't make sense for the cheesemakers because I wouldn't have a job if I did that. And so one of the things that we knew was that we wouldn't be able to go inside the facility with a video camera at this time because of COVID. In the future, we're going to get to do that again and share those kind of things. So some of these scenes that we're getting to see we kind of curated this together so we could talk about it. So if you do have questions, let us know. But that team that's inside and their entire focus is on just producing delicious cheeses. And I did not feel comfortable interrupting them to do that. So that's why we're seeing, this is, you know, some of the happy shots of some of their cheeses aging and being made. But this video was to incorporate some of that imagery around inside the cheese make room itself. And so, Michele, we had a question while this is playing. Where does the sheep milk come from? Do you know the name of the farm?
So in the Netherlands, they have more of a co-op system, right? So they will have like a cheesemaker in town, and he gets his milk from the surrounding dairies, much like we do as well in Humboldt. Our milk source is our own dairy, as well as you know, up into Southern Oregon and as far west as a little bit of Northern Nevada. So that's how it works in the Netherlands. But so we don't have our own sheep at all. We get our sheep's milk from the surrounding farmers by the dairy that makes this cheese.
That's awesome. And there, you know, the most sheep milk Gouda comes from the Netherlands and is imported in from there. And we have another delicious cheese here, also imported, and this has the black wax on it. You want to share a little bit about Midnight?
So this is Midnight Moon, and as iconic as Humboldt Fog is, it's delicious. It is the cheese that makes a lot of people, as you touched on this, John, it's the cheese that makes a lot of people, it's their gateway from commodity cheese to non-commodity cheeses. And for me, Midnight Moon was that cheese that made me realize, and it does this for a lot of people, that goat's milk isn't scary. The caramely deliciousness of this is not at all barnyardy. Most people can't even recognize it as a goat cheese because mostly people eat fresh goat cheese, right? And so this cheese was a eureka moment for me when I was a young cheese person. And this cheese is like kablammy. I need kaboom. I need a moment after I eat this cheese, you know, it's just such a great cheese. And you can pair it really well with everything you've got.
I'm going to spotlight my video so you can have a moment with the cheese because it is so good tonight. Midnight Moon, you know, you get the tyrosine crystals, you get that really nice breakdown of the proteins. We call them flavor crystals at the shop. And even after having chewed it already, starts out of a fudgy texture, sort of like peanut buttery on your teeth. You get that sort of caramel notes. It's when you go to an age, oh yeah, Susan was going to ask about the crunchiness. So these are tyrosine. It's the proteins break down from the protein down to the amino acids, and tyrosine clumps with a calcium phosphate to create this sort of texture on your palate. Crunchiness is a very interesting taste experience, and it really elevates. So a lot of people will come in to the shop and they say, I want something with the crunchy crystals in it. Give me those crystals things. We're going to be launching a series over the next few months with Pat Pulowski of cheesescience.org. We'll be doing cheese science classes, online virtual tastings with him. He's based out of way out of not this state, closer into Vermont. But he's going to be our cheese science expert coming in to do. So we'll do a crystals one. But Midnight Moon, to me, puts together, like Michele said, it takes what is scary for a lot of people, which is goat cheese. I don't know how many all of you probably like goat cheese because you decided to come to a goat cheese class. But oftentimes it's one of the more anxiety creating flavors, because a lot of people have had bad goat cheese before. But when you take a bite of Humboldt Fog and you take a bite of this Midnight Moon and you get the sweetness, this caramel that comes from the Gouda recipe, that nice age on it. Yeah. One of the top 5 cheeses I've ever had. Right. Carly, you're on. Exactly. It just is mind blowing. And this is paired with fig and black tea from Quince and Apple, which is just an outstanding, Matt and Claire are good friends of ours and they are amazing. So Michele, I gave you some time to enjoy that bite. Yeah, exactly.
So good. Yeah.
So good. It's tasting awesome. And was there any reason why white wax and black wax were chosen? You happen to know? I don't know.
I don't happen to know that. Maybe Christy knows that.
Again, Mary wanted something that was going to be differentiated in the case and pop. And so the gentleman was quite impressed with Mary, and they determined that this could be a potential for her that he hadn't seen yet in the States. So mind you, tempering this was just about 21 years ago. So yeah, it was just to stand out.
Right. This cheese is almost old enough to drink.
Almost. That's so.
Almost.
Does Mary pretty much get whatever she wants? She's so nice. Why not?
I trust Mary's instincts more than I trust my own, for sure. So I think that, yeah, Mary gets what she wants.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
As she should.
That was delicious. And we've got the some video of the dairy coming up here. So I'll share my screen. This is, that's the herd manager. Let's start in the beginning.
So the dairy. So after Mary decided she was going to make cheese, she really had to give up her goats because she couldn't do both. Goats need to be milked twice a day. They are a lot of work. So she gave up her goats and went strictly into making cheese. And come to find out, that she would try to mentor the local goat farmers, but we just were still needing more milk and needing more goat farmers. And so she decided she would put her money where her mouth is. And she built this, we built this beautiful state-of-the-art barn. There's 2 barns like that. They have passive solar, and they're just great facilities. They were 100%, we got first 100% certified humane score on the assessment in the country, and we've had a 100% score on every audit since. So it's a really special place. And the thing that I love about this is we started this farm with tiny little goats. You can see, like tiny little goats. But when Mary sold her goats off, some of her stock went to Judy Shedd. So there's there's Esmeralda and Hazel again. And they went to Judy Shedd at Capriola in Kentucky. And when she was going to start this farm again, she decided that she would get some of her stock from her old genetics at Judy, and Judy Shedd provided some of the initial kids that started this farm. So we now have 1,400 goats on the farm. We're at capacity, and these goats, are just spectacular. They give a gallon or more, just about a gallon of milk a day, and most goats give like half a gallon of milk a day, 0.6 gallons of milk a day. So it is, you know, what we've done, or what she's done, it's what she started, and what they've done at the farm is really remarkable. They have the kids that are very young, and they have a closed herd. They bring in occasionally a new buck so that they have the diversity, the genetic diversity. But mostly now, because we have capacity, we use these goats to start we give these goats to other farmers to start their good genetics, so that we can build a system of really great goat herding in the US. So it's really cool. And so what we do, the goats, I think you'll see a couple pictures of, you can't go wrong with baby goats. So you're gonna see a lot of pictures of baby goats. They're super cute. So the first picture, I think, that's the dairy, some more. That goat is just, you know, maybe an hour old. And these goats, that's the kid barn. And so they stay about 6 weeks in the kid barn, and they learn how to eat. It's really kind of crazy. And they're not afraid of people, because all these goats have been born on the farm, and these people have taken really great care of them, and were the ones that taught them how to eat and all that stuff. So they're very drawn to people as their herd. So they live in the kid barn for about 6 weeks. And then they go out to, they go to another heated area, which is the kid pens. And they're there till they're about 3 months old. Aren't they adorable too?
Oh, gosh.
Delicious.
I haven't gotten my goat cuddles in the last 3 months, and I feel like I'm missing out on something.
Oh, they're constantly telling me I got to put the goat down. It's just I have a problem. That's the pasture. So once the goats are about 3 months, I think, they go out on pasture, and then at about 10 months, they put a buck out in that same pasture. The girls all stick together with their family unit. They're entire, you know, they have babies together. There's a real coffee clutch, right? So they always stay with their own group, so that doesn't stress them out. And they always, in this state-of-the-art milking parlor that we have, they play jazz. They tried all kinds of different kinds of music, but they stick with soft jazz. The goats seem to prefer that. And oh, that's Foggenberg. Isn't he stunning? He's a Toggenberg goat. He's so cool.
He's so gorgeous.
And nobody can wear red on the farm, so they can't freak the goats out. And that is sunset at the farm. Isn't it pretty? It's just so nice.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Do they keep all the 1,400 goats together, or do they have groups that they
each have separate groups. So once they've spent their first year on pasture, they come in, they do a preg check, is what they call it. And they make sure that they're, going to have a kid. And when they are pregnant, they bring them into the barn in groups, so that, they're born with this group, they're in the kid barn with this group, they're in the kid pens with this group, they go out to pasture with the same group. So we have pastures that are cordoned off from one another, so that the goats can spend their whole existence with their goat family. And we bring them in once they're pregnant, so that we can watch them, of course, keep an eye on them better, and give them the right food and all that. And then but they have access to an outdoor paddock within their groups. So they're a little bit smaller, but they still have access to grass. They don't really like grass, by the way. Goats don't eat grass. It's a myth. They really prefer head level. They're browsers. They'll eat your bushes before they eat your grass.
They'll eat your shirts before they eat the grass too.
I have a thing for my hair.
That's happened before. Catherine, we'll come back to that question in a little while, because I want to get that answered. But I do want to eat more cheese too. So I'm like, I'm right in the middle. And I think Christy is our guest presenter for these next two, right? And Michelle,
Yes.
obviously you can jump in at any point you want, but Christy is sitting. You want to just tell us where you're sitting?
Yeah, so I am Christy Katov. I've been with Cypress Grove now for about 5 years, and I am personally part of the marketing team here at Cypress Grove. But also one of the fortunate opportunities I have is to help drive the new products here at Cypress Grove and innovation. And so today, you guys are catching me here when I found out it was such a nice day for you guys. We actually had a beautiful day here. So I am sitting right now outside of our main break room, which is to my right. And then behind me is part of our land of the creamery here itself. And then the red barn, as I said, is in my back in the background. The temperature here, I think right now is about 66 degrees. But when we have a beautiful day like this, it feels like it could be 80 out. So it's quite a nice day. I'm happy to be here with you guys. But on to cheese. So as I would love to talk to you guys just a bit, my guest cameo here is to come up give you guys a little introduction into how Cypress Grove is thinking about the future and developing new products. And as John mentioned in the beginning, you stole a little bit of my thunder, John, but I'll steal it back now, is that you guys are the very first group that we are putting in front of to try our newest cheese that is going to be coming out in stores in July. And it is the latest edition of our Humboldt Fog Remix. But before we get to that, how about all of you take a moment to take your time to try our truffle tremor cheese? I personally sliced a nice wheel here today just to show you. This, I would say, is closer to the mature side of truffle tremor. I personally picked this wheel because I'm a big fan of it at this stage. And this is, I think, a good introduction story to talk to you guys a bit about the philosophy of how Cypress Grove oftentimes has developed cheese. Most cheeses have been developed by Mary. I mean, it starts with her creation, and Michele touched on it. I made a point earlier to mention it, that Mary has always had this philosophy, and she received it from her dad, is that he mentioned to her very early on that there was enough mediocrity in the world. So if she was ever gonna do anything, like really, really do it, she was either gonna do it really well, just do it, or don't do it at all. So Mary somewhat has like managed to keep this throughout like most of her life and things that she does. And in particular, it's translated to a lot of the cheese. Mary's very excited about trying to work with things that were not necessarily in the flavor palette at the time. So as Michele was mentioning, I mean, in the early 80s when this company was starting, the American artisan cheese movement was just starting. So Mary was truly considered a pioneer at that time. And so for her creations of the mixtures of lavender and fennel pollen and saffron and different herbs at the time, that was very new and something new to the palate. So the truffle tremor cheese you have in front of you now is a soft ripened cheese. It falls in line with the Humboldt Fog family. But the difference with this cheese is we've taken black Italian summer truffles and we've mixed it into the paste before we start the aging process. And what we found is that it was a beautiful creation once this was developed, but it didn't start this way. So how it started was Mary had an idea when truffles were first starting to hit. She wasn't sure of trying to play with developing a fresh cheese. So something along the lines of the disc when you tried Purple Haze, no aging. So they tried it. They all got together as a group to taste it. The moment they all tasted it, literally everyone in the room spit it out. It was that bad. Something about the fresh cheese mixing with the truffles just did not sit well. Well, in the spirit of Mary, Mary is not somebody who just takes defeat lightly, and she still wanted to see what she could do. So she tasked everybody to just continue to age it. And basically, we kind of forgot about it. And then they remembered it about 60 days later, pulled it out, tried to age it similar to Humboldt Fog. And the difference this time is the moment they tried truffle tremor, there was silence in the room. And that was the moment they all felt like we have a winner. And so this was now how truffle tremor was developed. So what you should be tasting now is this floral, strong, herbaceous, mushrooming type of flavor. How is it? Is everybody enjoying it? Yeah? Okay, good.
You know, about 5 or 6 people said, wow. So I'm not sure if that was like, wow, incredible, or wow.
Wow.
No,
Yes.
Now the Incredibles are coming through, and
Yeah.
it's ours is about as ripe as the one that you have in front of you. At least the piece that
Okay.
the cream line is nice and big,
Yeah.
and the mushrooms coming through. Vander said it, you know, a hint of sort of reminiscent of a blue cheese. You know, some of that fungi notes coming through.
Yeah.
A creamy, earthy perfection is what Julie said. I know she just a minute ago said she was going to be saving Midnight Moon and Fig and Black Tea for her last bite. Kendall and I are big believers in the last bite. Like you kind of plan your whole meal around making sure that last bite is the one you want. But now she might be having some doubts about her original choice, especially never having tasted this last one.
And I would also say, John, to your pairings tonight, this is the one cheese in our line that we feel does stand up to red wines quite well. Yeah. So if you were entertaining and you were having people over at any point, truffle tremor is the one cheese we find can go outstanding with reds. So my favorite there. Yeah. For sake of time, if you guys are interested, I would now love to debut for you this final cheese so that you could take time to taste it. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, so drum roll, all in front of you. Cypress Grove has developed a line a few years ago where we were trying to put a little spin on Humboldt Fog, trying to mix it up a bit. So we developed about 3 years ago a remix line that we called it, which is basically trying to take different herbs that we've had and create a new spin on Humboldt Fog. And we've been quite successful with it, and we've seen quite a few people have been enjoying it. So we are quite fortunate up here where we play a lot. So if you were ever to come visit Cypress Grove, you will see cheeses out every day. We call ourselves Grovers. Grovers are eating our cheese all the time. And we also are encouraged to experiment with our cheese. And we really encourage people's ideas coming forth. So one hot herb and hot topic around here for the last few years has been chipotle. It pops up around here all the time. So we've been flirting with the idea of how do we maybe develop a Grover style cheese of chipotle, because it seems like the vast majority of our people are really into chipotle. But then we also are very fortunate to be up here in Humboldt County with a lot of great producers. And one of our really key partners over the year, we've helped them with their start, is Dick Taylor Chocolate. So if you haven't tried Dick Taylor Chocolate, I know it's part of the pairing with this cheese, but a fun fact in particular, John was so ahead of things, John and Kendall, is John was the very first one to bring in the Dick Taylor Chocolate outside of the West Coast. So in regards to being, in Texas, John was the first one to introduce Dick Taylor. So I know as Humboldt County residents, we're really grateful for that. And I know Dick Taylor is. So we were talking a lot about how can we maybe do a collaboration? And so we finally decided, maybe now's the time, instead of the ash line down the middle of this Humboldt Fog remix, we play with chocolate. So the recipe and the remix you're about ready to try, feel free to go at it, is what we're calling our Chipotle Cacao remix. So it is Chipotle has been mixed in the paste, and we have 72% Belize Toledo finely ground Dick Taylor chocolate taking down the middle ash line layer. There is still vegetable ash on the outside. So for those of you to see the slice, you will still notice that the proteolysis is happening. We still have this beautiful ash line, but it's definitely going to give you guys a little bit of a kick. So I would caution a bit. There is a little bit of a spice, but we think that the spice rounds out a bit with that smoky finish of the chocolate. So again, you guys are the first to try it. So I'm really curious to see what you guys think. And I believe, John, you're pairing it with the Fleur de Lis chocolate. Is that right?
Yeah, we got this one tonight. Let me see. This is, oh gosh, I can find a good view. Come on. Yeah, the Fleur de Sel here.
The Sel.
73% dark chocolate. This is like one of my all-time favorite bars. I found this chocolate maker. I was sitting in the hospital room about 6 hours after my first kiddo was born, and Kendall and the baby were asleep, and I was researching new products for the shop. And I read this article about an up-and-coming chocolate producer out of Humboldt County, California. So I emailed them, got a sample, fell in love, and been selling it ever since. And it's one of our most popular. And so yeah, like half of the folks are like, oh wow, spicy, right? You get that. But then if you're including that center line, and you can see the chocolate powder here, it does play well with it. The Chipotle and chocolate are a classic, great combination. And I think the goat cheese just is an amazing vehicle. You actually can still get a hint of the meat or the milk. So this is awesome. I'm like super pumped. This is my first time trying it too. With the heat, you just want to keep eating more of it. It's like a good queso. You can't stop until it's gone. So that's awesome.
And again, this is only available July, August, and September. So this is one of our limited releases. So it will be, and I believe, yeah, John, you're the first to get it. So
yeah, it's like somebody said, it's like mole. Katie Lopez.
yes,
Love
yes.
it. I was talking to one of my team members yesterday, Christy, and we did the first time we ever kept the shop open past 7 o'clock was when y'all launched on your menu. My team added the wrong one, the Fog Haze remix. So when the Haze was released, the team, they launched it at 7:30 after we closed and stayed open till midnight on launch day, which was awesome. So some folks are saying Mexican hot chocolate. And so some people, for some people it's spicy. And so I get that. And that's why we put it last, right? So you end up with this really beautiful, overwhelming flavor and experience on your palate. But if you drink a red wine or you have bubbles, you can cleanse your palate really easily. And then you'll be able to go back and see what happens with your palate now when you're tasting these other cheeses. And that little bit of salt from the chocolate bar helps with the bring out even more of the cocoa powder, which again, I love it. This is amazing. My team is going to be blown away. I told them they couldn't sample it until after we did this class. So hopefully they didn't.
Yeah. We have a fan who believes tequila and whiskey also goes very good with this cheese. This could be one of those cheeses that could potentially pair with distilled beverages. So another tip there.
I love it. You all have anything else up your sleeve?
We do. There's a couple. We will have a new cheese coming out in January. I'm hesitant to speak to it yet, but yes, there's going to be a new one coming in January.
You will just be prepared to be excited. Will that be at the Fancy Food Show for tasting?
Yes, John, if the show happens.
If the show, that's a big if. So there was,
if not, you and your team there and your customers there will definitely be the first to get it. I'll make that deal with you.
Well, that sounds awesome. This was amazing. This tasting was outstanding. I did have one question that came up, Michele, which was, why can't anybody wear red? Why do goats get stressed out about red?
Oh, I'm not sure why they are stressed out by red, but they are stressed out by red. Maybe it's like bulls that they're just annoyed by red. And so they, to keep everything calm in the barn, we wear gray.
Hey, that's fantastic. I had not heard that before. I might have to incorporate into our bus tour. Our bus tours going forward, let people know. So
yeah, Amelia, I mean, maybe it's just our crazy goats. I don't know.
Maybe there was an incident once. Fagenberg the Toggenberg doesn't like red. So that was awesome. Christy and Michele, thank you for spending the evening with me here and with our awesome guests. That was so much fun. For me, getting to see those images and getting to see the cheese presses and the aging of the Humboldt Fog, this kind of stuff rocks my world. I'm such a cheese geek. And I don't know, I've been looking forward to doing a cheese tasting with you, Michele, since the beginning of time. Since I was I didn't know anything about cheese and when we had that picture taken. And now I feel blessed to have gotten to sit with you and spend the evening. And Christy,
so funny. You wound up as being the boss of me on the ACS board. So, it's not like.
Never. We got to taste other things. Maybe we never got to do a cheese tasting though.
Sure.
And if somebody asked why I got into cheese, that's a great question. That is, okay. Michele, as I said, Michele plays a role in my falling passionately in love with cheese, but on my honeymoon, I'm a CPA, a certified public accountant by trade. And I was working at Deloitte & Touche as an auditor. And when we were on our honeymoon, I told Kendall I was going to quit my job when we got home. And she said, okay, what are you going to do? And I said something in cheese. And so I quit my job when we got back and spent 2 years searching for my passion. And it was, my cheesemonger at the time was Kelly Sheehan at Central. She was at Central Market, and she was had worked with Michele and been for Michele, had been partners together. And so she always talked about Michele. And okay, Julie, you worked with Kelly at Central Market. So Kelly would be, give me special samples off the case. And I just started slowly falling in love. And then at ACS of 2009, actually getting to, when you get to see, she said tons and tons, thousands of pounds of cheese. When you get to handle these products that people put so much passion into and hard work into, and they're sending their little babies off to this contest and competition and judging, and it's our job to make sure it doesn't get screwed up. I remember Michele saying day one, don't lose the cheese, don't lose the cheese. I repeated that statement every single year. I was eventually on that committee for 7 or 8 years, and I repeated that same statement. Anyway, so that's how I fell in love with cheese. And once you get into that environment, you won't want to go back. And so it's so awesome. So I see Vander was saying that it's one of his gateway cheeses, but this is just awesome. I don't want to keep anybody else any more time because everybody's got to get back to their couches. The couches are getting lonely at this time of day. But Michele and Christy, thank you for being amazing. I am going to, just so that everybody gets a chance to be loud and say something awesome. I always feel bad that you're on mute the whole time, but I am going to unmute everybody. And that way y'all can just start cheering for Christy and Michele and just saying thank you, because that was awesome.
Thank you, John. We really appreciate being in your case. I know you have a lot
Come
to
on,
keep.
Nancy, and I'll say thank you. All right. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you.
So much fun.
Delicious.
Woo!
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
just say thank you.
Well, that was really delicious.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
That's adorable.
Thank you because you let us play with dogs.
That's awesome.
Hi, Laura.
Woo! Thanks y'all for coming.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Hey, Megan.
Bye. Good night, Rex. Good night, Laura.
Good night, Sarah.
Thanks so much.
Thanks y'all. That was awesome.
Kindly.
Thank you.
Bye, John.
So fun. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. The baby left too.
Baby's in the back.
Oh, look at the baby. Oh,
I remember that stage.
Oh, tiny baby.
little baby goat. Oh my gosh. Look at that. She's still in the show. Sorry.
Okay.
Baby stealing show.
Well deserved.
Thank you, guys. Wonderful.
He can steal it.
Thanks so much for joining y'all. Have an awesome night.
Thanks, John.
Stay cheesy.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Good evening.
Happy Father's Day, by the way, to the
Yeah,
dad.
happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day, new dad, too.
Yeah, big deals. Okay.
That was awesome. Bye, y'all. Good night.